are here. Oh my goodness. Hello. Welcome to Drunk History Association Chat Style. No, just kidding. Welcome to Association Chat in my library. And with me, Tahira, my dear friend Tahira Endean, that I have been friends with for
a decade-ish.
Over that, I think. Yeah. And so she's visiting. She's in town. She's essentially events royalty. And you just won an award.
This beautiful throne in this library.
And the pearls. And the pearls, yes.
Are matching.
So you just won an award, though, before you came here. So talk to me a little bit about that.
So first of all, I think it's so nice when people nominate you for an award and you get to enjoy that. And I went to Smart Meetings, and I was one of the smart women, and as a visionary award. And that was really special because we've been through a horrible year. Anybody thinks that I could see into a crystal ball, which I obviously cannot. But that we're looking forward to the future is super cool.
It's amazing. And I think that, so Tahira is in town. She came to visit me. She's been staying with me for a bit, and we've had some interesting conversations, I think.
We can't help it.
I know.
We start talking about like hair, and then all of a sudden we're talking about the industry.
It's true. And so we thought we would do this conversation, and it would be an evening, and it won't be drawn out, but we wanted to have like a short discussion where we talk about stuff, and it's truth or truth, the real truth. And if you want to comment and ask any questions, you can do that, and we can see your comments. So you can comment. I'll bring them up. But we're both sitting here. We can both see the comments as they come in. And so let's get started, because I want to go ahead and talk about this whole crazy events industry that we are experiencing during this crazy, weird time.
So you were on the road. You were speaking. Delta, you stopped speaking because truth, Delta is bad.
Yes.
So you came home.
Yeah.
I did kind of the opposite. I was like, Delta, like going in.
Yeah.
Right? So this is about day, I left my house on August 24th.
Yeah.
And I've, 7 flights, 9 cities, all in a carry-on, just for fun. Except for that red dress. Thank you, Kate. I've been to multiple events now. I've been in Florida and California and Boston and Texas and New York. And so I feel like I've got a good handle now on kind of like what's really happening out there.
Right.
So truth is truth.
Truth is truth. And so what is the truth about what you've been seeing as far as the ease with which one can travel from place to place and attend these meetings?
So I think once I started and was landed in Denver, first of all, you were wearing a mask all the time. The minute you leave your house, you get it as soon as you're stepping into the airport. From the minute you step into an airport until the minute you're in your hotel room or at somebody's house. I'm also asking people when I come to visit, I'm double vaccinated. Are you double vaccinated? Can we visit?
Yeah.
And, in this case, I'd been traveling for a while. You had just had some travels.
Yeah.
And so we all tested on the weekend so that we would know that before I arrived that we were going to be safe.
Yeah.
And don't you want to be safe? I mean, it's that simple. Like, don't you want to be comfortable and safe and know that we're going places where...
Well, and you think it's that simple, except for the fact that it does seem like there are different expectations from people about whether they share that kind of information or not. So, one of the things I thought is, and I sent an email and I'm like, well, I want you to feel comfortable in our home. I want you to know that, while I went to this memorial service, I'm coming back and Margot goes to school in person and everything, but we are all getting tested and that's what we're doing, and shared those results just so I wanted you to feel comfortable when you went to bed at night in our house,
And the same, I'd arrived in New York and I was staying with friends in New York and coming to see you. And I had just been a number of places with a number of different people. And the events that I've been going to, they have mandated vaccination. So you have to vaccination, negative test results, at least one of those two things, and sometimes both. So depending on where you're coming from. So I know that I've been comfortable where I've been going.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some Should we talk about social distancing, physical distancing?
Yeah,
What
let's
that means
talk
at
about it.
events?
I mean, we're all familiar with these terms being thrown around, this social distancing, but when we're talking about social distancing and physical distancing, what are we really talking about? What do we mean?
I think it's so hard, right? Because you go into you walk into the airport. They ask you to physically distance. They've got dots down or arrows or little happy faces or surfboards if you're in San Diego. It's not very practical to be 6 feet apart from the person in front of you if an airport is crowded and you're in a security line. So nobody really is. Everybody's, shuffling up a little bit. And even if you were 6 feet from the person in front of you, you're in a line like this. So you're not really ever 6 feet away from somebody. So just understanding that and knowing that, because to get on an airplane, you don't need to be vaccinated. You do need to be tested if you are going internationally, but not if you're going domestically. So I don't know if the people around me in these airports
are vaccinated.
I don't know what's going on.
Idea.
So I'm masked.
Yeah.
And I'm like masked. Like if I could do a mask up to here, I would do a mask up to here. I mean, it's just we have to do what we can to stay safe.
Yeah.
There's a lot more touchless things now. There's less people, passing things around so much to do things. And, so I think that's the first part of your physical distancing. When you order your Uber, it says, I agree that I'm wearing a mask.
Right.
And then you can get into the Uber.
Yeah.
And when you're in the Uber, you are staying masked. And a couple of them I've been in have actually had plastic shields between the front and the back seats.
Yeah.
So distance, right? Not because you're not physically able to distance that far. So they're creating an extra barrier. You go into the hotel though, now it depends on where you are. They might be masked, they might not be masked. It depends on the county that you're in. There might be plexiglass, there might not. Depends on the hotel that you're in. So again, it's about how am I going to feel comfortable and who are the people around me in the lobby. So that's just the physical act of getting somewhere. But now we have our meeting. So now what are we going to do? Yeah. And if there's 3 meetings in a hotel, do they all have the same rules?
Right.
Because we're all going to end up in the bar at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night with people from other meetings and leisure travel. And so there's not really any clear guidelines. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
There's not clear, consistent guidelines in all of the places that you go. So how do we stay safe?
Well, and even if you go, I mean, so do you want to talk about so Adrian, I know today is your birthday. Happy birthday. You're probably not on here watching us right now, but if you are, or if you're even listening to this later, I actually printed out your entire article so that we could reference it, but we both read it. We both looked at it. And so Adrian Seeger, who is just an amazing individual, if you have never come across his work before, he wrote Conferences That Work, great thought leader in the space. He wrote this article.
Well, let's step back a little bit, because not only is he a thought leader in this space, he also has years and years and years of being a computer programmer and a computer scientist and a physicist who understands computer modeling.
And that's very important, because what this article is about is in reference to responding to some research that was done, some research that involved modeling and talked about how in-person meetings and events were safer than a lot of daily activities. The grocery store. Yeah. And Adrian said, hey, wait a second. I don't know that this has been done the correct way. Can you answer some questions for me? And unlike a lot of us who just say, we have questions and we leave it at that, Adrian actually scheduled a discussion with the people who put the research together and actually talked with them. And some of what he found was that he didn't think that it was thorough enough, that it took into consideration things like air quality and different types of rooms in conference centers and things like that, for example. It is actually a really important discussion that's being held and still discussed right now, because the research came out from Freeman. A lot of people were saying, well, obviously they want everyone to go and feel safe having meetings, but can we really feel safe? The argument back is, of course, we want to have meetings in person, but can we really feel safe if it looks like the research is not thorough or we can't trust what somebody's saying? Doesn't that make us feel less safe? And so
what is science?
Yeah.
What is the truth behind science? So, so there's this article, but I think it's also, let's just step back to, are we vaccinated? Because again, just let's forget about politics and all of how you feel about it personally. If
I'll take a big sip.
And there's people who can't. There's people who legitimately cannot have specific kinds of vaccines, which is why things like a Johnson & Johnson, same delivery method that we got polio vaccines with as children. There's alternatives. So we have ways to have a vaccinated, safe population. That's one thing, but we're not all vaccinated. We know that.
Right.
So not anywhere in the world yet. We can wear masks. Okay, that's good. But then we have this kind of research. So now we're on an airplane. So how much is that airplane filtering? You know, and I've been on Dreamliners and I've been on not Dreamliners. So, you know, there's definitely airplanes where you feel like there's maybe a little more air circulation than other airplanes.
Yeah.
You know, but and also on an airplane, they're 100% full. So I'm sitting like this, or on one of my flights, I'm sitting like, you know, I have like this guy beside me, right? So, you know, it's like, dude, he was so close. He kept changing the channel and the armrest, you know, it's endless. So when we look at things like this article, you know, and they do, it's a lot of research, it's a lot of modeling, but it talks a lot about, you know, that what is that air quality and that airflow when we get into big buildings. And, you know, recently we had our board meeting and I had the opportunity to sit with Karina Bauer, who's the CEO of IMAX. And on the day that they made the announcement that you have to be double vaccinated to attend IMAX. But she did that after they talked to many people, did a lot of research, and to a lot of other show organizers in Las Vegas, people who are organizing those big shows. And they said, you know what, this is one proven thing that we know that is going to allow us to have 10,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 people, because CES is doing the same thing, meet. And it just takes out one variable in safety. And then we're going into buildings that we know are of varying ages, but have also spent time on their air quality systems and their sanitation systems and all of their things and all of their cleaning and all of their protocols for the last year and a half, so that we can be more safe. So do I think we can meet safely? I do, but we need to take one variable at a time and figure out how it fits into our Tetris pack of how are we going to meet safely?
I mean, I feel like, you know, when you think about events, there are so many checklists and everything already. You know, if there was just one sort of recipe for, okay, this will establish that you have done the essentials in making sure that it's as safe as possible for the people who can attend, who want to attend. I feel like that shouldn't be as hard as it is, but because of all of these varying regulations
everywhere in the world,
no one really wants to be the one to say, you know, like, you have to meet all of these everywhere you meet. But I do feel like for a long time, as long as we, you know, are worried about surges and things happening, that we're going to be contending with this for,
I think someone said, you know, it's going to go from pandemic to endemic. So this is going to be something that we are dealing with and having to manage. And it's going to be every country. I think we're seeing most countries now are putting in some kind of a vaccine passport. Super simple. It's on your phone and you just show you're green. And then they match it up to your identification. Right now, going to any restaurant in New York or any venue in New York, and I went to several in the last few days, you show those two things. It's now that's now part of your process of entering a gym, a class, a building. But now what if I'm taking my grandmother somewhere or my mother somewhere who has a flip phone?
Right. What are they supposed to do?
What are they supposed to do?
I mean, talk about a digital divide, you know, it's like, that's a different type of digital divide where it's, you have people who, because of their technology, aren't able to provide that proof or follow those protocols. So, I mean, I think it's really, you know, it's such a challenge for everyone to try to figure out the best way through it. But I do hear a lot of either or, you know, and that goes for safety protocols, but that also goes for in-person versus virtual versus hybrid. And what is hybrid anyway? And
what is hybrid anyway?
What is hybrid anyway?
What is hybrid? You know, and I think, you know, if anybody can talk about hybrid, it's me and you, because
I know.
How long ago did we start doing hybrid? Like 2009, 2010.
I believe that you wrote the white paper in 2009.
I did. That really super long, like ridiculous. Who writes a 24-page white paper in a hybrid meeting? Like, nerd.
You did.
You know, so, but because we didn't want to lose any of those lessons from those early hybrid meetings. And they're still valid. You know, the information that's in there is still valid. It's like, how do we engage? How do we get, you know, we had hybrid host. We had Liz King.
Pods.
Liz King now
Pods.
Cruzo was our virtual host. We had the pods. We had Rude Skyping in from Switzerland when that was new technology.
We had keynote.
Glenn is our MC talking to Rude in Switzerland.
Yeah, that's right.
And we had our pod in Montreal that reported back on breakouts. And we had Mary Boone, like amazing designer from her house coming into us. And it was all cutting edge and new. And now it's just what we do.
Yeah. Except we don't. Except there are a lot of, I feel like there are still a lot of events that are happening that aren't even there yet.
Yeah.
Which is something we were doing in 2009, right? So, well, you were doing. I showed up.
You were totally there. It was awesome. So I think, but it is these, so that was ways of connecting people, but we still have those same lessons, those same ways that we can connect people.
Well, let's talk about the connection part, because I really do think, I think that that's getting lost. One constant criticism I hear about the virtual side is that the virtual events are not doing a good enough job of connecting people. It's not human enough. And speaking of which, if anybody really wants to communicate with us, you can definitely post and ask your questions. I do see a few of you watching, so that's good. But the thing is that I think that we're so used to these little squares and stuff and sort of passively sitting back that some people believe it just can't be done, or it's not being done well. Now, I know that you've had, successful experiences with doing hybrid and virtual events, but I mean, what do you have to say about that connection piece?
So I think we've had so much fun with virtual events this year. When we first had to launch into virtual events, I'm an executive in an association. It's all about community. This is what you know this space. Like, how do we build community? How do we get people to feel that they're part of something? And we're global. We have chapters on 6 continents. So how are we going to bring people together? And, the first thing that we did was called Site Week. And so it was 2-hour sessions of over 4 days. Okay. For me, they happened at midnight and 8 a.m. So like 11 until 3.
You took pictures like behind the scenes of like what was going on in your house.
I was like, I have jet lag in my living room. It's horrible. But for our audience, the people who were in Asia and Europe and North America, it was at times that suited them. And that's why we did that. And it was, and it was good. It was lots of good dialogue content. And so that really worked. And then we did a couple of traditional things. And by the time we got to the end of please don't make me do another digital event, IMEX Frankfurt canceled. We couldn't do Site Night Europe. We're like, we have to do another virtual event. And I was like, okay, so what are we going to do? And then I came up with literally the most ridiculous idea ever, which was we're going to do it all night. What? I'm like, well, all night, all day. It depends where you are. We're going to run it from what ended up being 4:00 in the morning on the West Coast until 6:00 in the evening. And it was so fun. And what was fun about it was I told every chapter got 15 minutes of fame. But I said, don't send us a destination video. We've seen them. We know them.
No brochures.
We love them, but no brochures. I said, this is about connecting the people who do business together. And we want to know about you. So, if you are in Mexico and you are showing us how to make tacos with the chef at the hotel, bring your mom.
Yeah.
It's...
Oh, here we go. A comment. You're the first comment. Jennifer Tahira always delivers to her audiences. She rocked our side events. She hates sleep. You know what? Fun. The first night that she was here, we stayed up way too late. So she might hate sleep.
Last night was an early night.
I love sleep. And we went to bed a little early.
We did. Yeah, for sure.
It's true.
But what was so cool about Site Night for me was that it was just fun. And people stayed. They thought they would come and stay for 15 minutes, but they stayed for hours in some cases. But the very first chapter that was going to open it was also the first chapter to send in their video. And it was our China chapter. And they opened their video with Wuhan.
Wow. I mean, if I were watching at that point, you can't get more relevant than that. I mean, I feel like that's something
that's so brave. And I thought that's the difference. That's the difference in doing digital events that are like wah-wah and digital events that are going to make you pay attention. And all of the content we did was so brave. We talked about diversity, but we had like a woman come on who talked about traveling with her daughter who is 28 but will always be 9. And how she'll be going through an airport and explaining to her walking through the security process, which she has to do every time they travel somewhere. and getting pulled aside because they think she's trafficking
Wow.
and having to pull out a letter from her doctor. Like, you don't hear those kinds of stories. Like, I spent the whole time just getting shivers, but that's what makes good digital content, is when people are going to be vulnerable and brave and talk about real things, and truth is truth.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truth is truth. I mean, that's the thing, is like, it's not truth or dare. The dare is to be truthful. And so tonight, you know, truth or truth.
Yeah,
It's
we have
only truth.
another article.
We do have another article. Okay, so in the Huffington Post, and you know, Huffington Post, whatever, who knows, you know, what, if we care about this. The reason I pulled this one is because it is about, it was posted on LinkedIn as one of the trending news stories that people were commenting on. And it's all about predictions on fall business travel and what is the fall travel season going to look like. And I know for like the association audience that a lot of associations who host events, a lot of them are already, if they haven't already converted to having a virtual, they're looking very closely at what's scheduled for the fall, and people are getting nervous. Now, recent news, you know, it's like international travel opening up. That's supposed to be good, right?
Yeah.
So, truth or truth? Truth is truth. Let's talk about it. I mean, what do you think is going to happen as far as, you know, where we're headed for travel?
Because I think where we're headed for travel, and we're seeing this. This is what I think. This is what this is truth. Is that if you are double vaccinated, it's going to be pretty easy to travel. You're going to get some kind of digital passport or a paper vaccine card if you don't have a digital means. And you are going to be able to take that and a negative test, and you're going to be able to get on a plane with your mask on and go almost anywhere. There's a few countries that are just still too high in their numbers that are being red zoned from other countries. And we're going to continue to see that until we can really get the whole world into a rhythm of people being able to be vaccinated. Yeah. And that's not going to change. I don't think that's going to change for a long time.
Right.
That we're going to have to just, you know, but it's the same as when I went to work in Beijing in 2008 on the Olympics. I had to get different vaccines than what I had for living in Canada.
Yeah.
So you go get those done, and you take your card and you get on the plane. So, you know, if you were going to Africa, you'd have to get different vaccines than we have to get to travel to the U.S.
Is it frustrating for you? Because I've known you for so long, and I know, I mean, true road warrior. I mean, Tahira's always on the go. You are always traveling all over the world, and you host events and schedule events and plan events all over the world. And so is it frustrating for you to hear, you know, so many people like push back on things that you've already had to do for a long time, like get vaccines to go to other countries and stuff like that?
I think it's just, it's frustrating that just the lack of consistency, the lack of messaging, and how are people supposed to know what to do when you have, you know, so many different sources of information to draw from?
Yeah.
How are you supposed to know what's the right thing?
Yeah,
and,
truly.
You know, and so that's become very difficult. But I think, you know, if we just keep following CDC and World Health Organization and the United Nations and those big players that really are responsible for making global decisions, and we can continue to open up. You know, I miss travel. I love travel.
Yeah. Hope that's an old fashioned. Yeah.
Yes, it is, Jen. This is for you. So, yeah, it's just, and everything takes longer. So now I need to plan, a couple of days ahead to go and get that test, have those results. You have to just, you come through any kind of security, you have to fill in more digital information. You have to fill in, I have a trip after this coming up where I have to, fill in 3 different kinds of information. You hope that those forms are going to be the right forms when you're there in 3 weeks. So all of those things are hard, because how do we communicate that information to our participants, which is of course what's making all of our corporations and all of our associations nervous about travel. So I think it is, how are we going to do it? Well, we're going to continue scientifically. We are going to continue to get vaccinated. I'm going to get my shingles. I'm going to get the measles booster, because apparently that's worn off. And we're going to continue to get vaccinated and continue to eradicate, as we did smallpox, as we did polio, as we did all of these other things before us. And we're going to continue to wear masks for a long time. And we're going to have some really pretty masks and some fun masks. I've got some masks with smiles. I've got some frowny face masks for when things aren't going so well. That's just you turn your smile upside down.
I kind of like that. I mean, it's better than the like wristbands of like, I feel good with hugs or I don't, you know, like wearing the frowny face smile is pretty much just keep your distance.
Right.
Maybe I just want to be, or maybe to like, now that makes me feel like if I don't have an emotion on my mask, like maybe I'm just like, you know, sort of blank.
Right.
I could be anything.
Somebody said to me the other day, like, oh, you can smile with your eyes. It's like, yeah, you can do that. It's like a thing. So
some people can.
Some people can.
But some people really not so much.
And sometimes it's, you know,
especially with Botox. Is that where Botox becomes an issue? And then it's just like,
because then you can't.
I'm smiling the best that I can. Truth is truth,
right?
I don't know.
Yes.
So, okay. So we said we're going to go for 3 minutes. We've got 5 minutes left. So truth or truth. So how, like, as you're traveling around and you are trying to get everybody to feel as comfortable as they can with attending these meetings, what's the biggest issue that is weighing on you personally?
So, do you know what's interesting is trying to understand the perceptions. And so when we just did our meeting in California, we always send information out in small bite-sized chunks, right? So here's the information on what we're doing to follow the county and country regulations of where we're going. In this case, San Diego, California, which in this case did not have an indoor mask mandate if you were vaccinated. So it was your choice if you wanted to wear a mask inside. So for our general sessions, we had some, couches, chairs, pedestal tables, other chairs, so people could. They were spread out, but not at 6 feet. Definitely not at 6 feet. But we also collected, the next email that comes out is getting your vaccination, negative test, or antibodies. So because ultimately we know that if you arrive with any of those 3 things, chances are very good. Now we are now 2 weeks past, so we're clear. 0 cases, 0 spread.
That's amazing,
right? So that's what we want. That's always the goal, right? I don't want to be a super spreader event. Nobody does.
No.
Nobody does.
No.
You're right.
No.
And so most of our events were outside. So I think right now it's going to be having events outside is going to make people more comfortable. Well, I have some events coming up in December that are going to be inside because we're inside because it's December and we're going to be in a cold country.
Yeah.
So that will be where we'll be looking for the larger rooms, making sure people can spread out. Again, making sure that, it's a little bit easier when you're in an international destination because people have to cross borders. They're going to be vaccinated to cross borders. So again, we've checked off that one comfort box. So what are the next comfort boxes that we need to check off? How are we going to serve food? I don't ever want to pick up I don't love buffets anyhow, but I don't ever want to touch a buffet tongue again.
No, me either. No. But you still see the buffets happening.
So what we're seeing now, so that our event we just did in California, they were serving from the buffet. So we had one chef touching and serving you things, and the food was delicious, and it was fabulous to do those. So it's being outside, having some fresh air.
Joe says you two should do more of these. Great conversation.
Thanks, Joe.
I wish
I was here all the time, hanging out at KiKi's house. Just so we're clear, her house is beautiful. The food has been fabulous. The company outstanding. And we could do the next one from the outdoor fireplace. I'm going to come back.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like when she visits sites, except she's visiting my house and she's like, we could do this in front of the fireplace outside. We could do this in the library. We could do this.
Yeah, exactly. So, or in your fabulous, association chat space.
And then Jennifer says, a global audience complicates travel, dealing with multiple governments, mandates. Yeah. How do you manage? Truly?
Honestly, we're managing one day at a time. We're managing one step at a time. And so we're continuing to just work with our partners. And, and we're very fortunate that we're typically working with tourism bureaus and convention bureaus and, just trying to stay as much on top of the information that we can. It's changing all the time. Yeah. That is the challenge. But I think as the farther we get into this, the easier it's getting to have more consistent information that's required. And it's going to be a little bit easier when people are recognizing, what a lot of people now is not just recognizing the vaccines that your country is vaccinating with, but recognizing any vaccine that the WHO recognizes, the World Health Organization recognizes. So we'll have digital health passports that will be relevant to how you got your vaccine, but not relevant necessarily to what everybody else has done, because everybody's had a different scenario. Yeah. So that's going to be important. And then it's going to be about testing. So when you get somewhere, where are you going to do that testing so that people can leave again when you're not, because you've got those 72-hour windows of testing. So understanding how we're going to test people. Who's going to cover that testing cost is something that we need to be thinking about, because that can be anywhere from 30 euros to $200.
Yeah.
So then there's a few ones now, like Americans can get like an eMed where you go online, somebody films you doing it, films your results, and then that's good for United Airlines, for example. So it's going to be all of these different processes that we're just going to have to keep. And so all of our FAQ pages are now just, here's this link, here's this link, here's this link, here's this link, because we can't possibly put information up that is going to stay relevant for even 6 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
And that's our challenge. But I think all of us, certainly in the travel industry, we want to travel again. But I think most of the globe is used to traveling again. And so, and here's another kind of interesting truth is truth little thing that I'm finding is that if you look at countries' vaccination statistics and passport statistics, they're within about 2%.
Really?
So
I guess I shouldn't be surprised. It totally makes sense.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So the people that want to travel understand kind of these are the new rules of engagement. And again, this is only one vaccine out of so many that we've had, that it's just one more thing, just one more little thing to put into our body that's there to protect us.
Yeah, that's
we put
true.
Lots of other things in our body, hot dogs, Big Macs.
I mean, poutine earlier.
Right. We don't know what's in lots of things that we eat and drink.
That's
so
true.
This is just another thing.
Yeah.
What really is in my turmeric? Is that really turmeric in my turmeric vitamin?
You know what? That's actually a really important. I worked with the association that monitors spices and stuff. Yeah. So that's actually a really good question.
Right?
yes, there's a big difference.
So I think that ultimately it's getting safer to meet again. There's lots of different ways of meeting safely again. Like Adrian says, there's lots of things we should be questioning.
Yeah, I thought his point about the filtration systems, the air filtration systems in the rooms, I thought that was a really great point.
None of us wants to now be in a small breakout room with 100 of our closest friends.
No.
So those days are kind of gone. I think
also with alcohol, people already make not such great decisions with alcohol.
And now they also want to hug you. So I think that it's going to be, we can definitely get out there again, and we are going to be able to.
I love this. Thank you, KiKi and Tahira, for the interesting and fact-filled conversation. Tahira, you inspire us to get back on the road.
Go back on the road. It's, know what? It's okay out there. I'm going to tell you.
You can visit friends.
So I'm going to tell you, I've been in Denver, Houston, Tampa, Boston, San Diego, New York, New Jersey. I'll go back to New York, and it is just about following the rules, staying safe, knowing who you're going to go visit, and that they're taking the same precautions that you are. And also, I did it 35 days in a carry-on. So
35 days in a carry-on.
So if you need any tips, just,
And also, by the way, she's also attending all of the different types of events that you can any kind of event you could possibly imagine, art installations,
trade shows,
dinners, just every kind of combination of events that you could go to. So you haven't just been traveling through all these different states and visiting all these different people over all these different days.
We've hosted our own conference. I've been to Smart Meetings and how they set up which is very lots of distance for smaller, like 100 people. And Biz Bash Connect, 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Right. So they were taking temperatures on the way in. It was, mask policies and mandates as you're in there. And again, people are just having to provide that information that says we're arriving safely and we're prepared to meet safely.
I love that. And I love you.
Yeah,
and I'm so glad that you came to visit.
Oh my gosh, I love it here.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So thanks for having us. Thanks for joining us.
Our in-person conference is in 2 weeks. Good luck, Kate. Oh my gosh. Good luck. And I wish all of you good luck as you go into your evenings, into the rest of your week, into the rest of your month. Today's autumnal equinox. Did you know that?
You know what that means? That means we need to have a fire.
I know exactly where we could have a fire. I have a fabulous fireplace in the backyard. Yeah. So with that, we will let you go into your lovely evenings. But I want you to know that, really, truth is truth. I want you to know that the reason that we wanted to do this is because we wanted to have a frank discussion that was similar to the sort of discussions we were having together, so that everybody could hear this stuff. Because the thing is that we're all trying to solve these problems, but if we can't talk about some of the struggles we have, some of the questions we have, and figure out the best way to solve them, you know, then it's going to take us so much longer to get to a point where we can safely meet, get on the go, and connect with others the way that we want to.
And this is how we want to.
This is how we want to. Yeah. So have a great evening. We wish you well, and be sure to keep asking questions to learn every day, because as Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.